4 U.S. Air Force B-1B Lancer bombers arrived at RAF Fairford as the U.S. looks to surge dramatically the operations over Iran. After the UK allowed the U.S. to use RAF Fairford and Diego Garcia for the deployment of U.S. Air Force bombers currently involved in operations over Iran, the first 4 B-1B Lancer bombers arrived in the UK. A first bomber arrived in the evening of March 6, 2026, followed the next morning by more bombers. Notably, the first B-1B arrived directly from the U.S. after crossing the Atlantic Ocean, while the other 3 arrived after completing a mission over Iran. It is unclear if additional bombers will be deployed to RAF Fairford. The new development arrives after the U.S. Secretary of Defense T.H.E. said this week that strikes on Iran are about to surge dramatically. On March 6th, the Pentagon has also published new photos showing both B-1Bs and B-52H Stratofortress bombers during the ongoing operations, with the latter showing a full load of AGM-158 JASM missiles. The arrival of U.S. Air Force bombers was expected as a number of transport aircraft, including a C-5M Super Galaxy, arrived at RAF Fairford in the previous days to move personnel and materials in support of the deployment. The first bomber, as mentioned earlier, arrived at Fairford in the evening of March 6th. The B-1B, with the call sign Pike 72, arrived alone after crossing the Atlantic Ocean. It was later confirmed that the aircraft was part of a 4-ship flight, possibly acting as a spare. In fact, 3 more bombers arrived at the base in the UK after completing a mission over Iran. The B-1Bs will reportedly stay at Fairford, from where they will launch for future missions. The US previously lamented that being constrained to fly round-trip missions from Konus complicated the employment of the bombers over Iran, as each mission would take up to 37 hours. Launching the aircraft from Fairford would cut in half the duration of each mission. The U.S. Central Command previously mentioned that bombers are being employed to hit Iranian ballistic missile sites and command and control centers. It has been reported that the bones from B-1, as the B-1s are dubbed by their air crews, might be using 2,000 lb guided bombs, possibly GBU-31, V-3, BJDAM, based on the 2,000 lb BLU-109B bunker buster, and AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missiles, JASM. The B-1B Lancer is the U.S. bomber with the largest payload, carrying 75,000 lb, 34,000 kg in its 3 internal weapons bays. This payload could include up to 84,500-pound weapons, such as the GBU-38 Joint Direct Attack Munitions, JDAM, up to 24 2,000-pound weapons, such as the GBU-31 JDAM, or up to 24 AGM-158 JASSMs. With the use of external pylons, 50,000 pounds, 23,000 kg of additional weapons can be carried, for a total of 125,000 lb, 57,000 kg. The Air Force is currently working on the integration of new pylons to further expand the payload, the new load-adaptable modular LAM pylons. On the same day, the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, released on the DVIDS network new photos of the B-1B Lancer and B-52H Stratofortress bombers, currently involved in Operation Epic Fury. Notably, the photos show 4 B-1Bs, possibly the same that later arrived at RAF Fairford, preparing to take off for a mission over Iran. No weapon is visible in the photos, as they are only carried in the weapons bays. As usual, the bomber is equipped with a sniper targeting pod. On the other hand, the photos of the B-52s, released few days earlier, clearly show the payload. The bombers are carrying 12 AGM-158 JASM missiles on the external pylons, although it is unclear if more are being carried internally. In fact, the B-52 can carry 8 more JASSMs internally by using the Common Strategic Rotary Launcher, increasing the total payload to 20 missiles. This is just shy of the B-1B's payload, which can include up to 24 JASSMs internally. Meanwhile, Iran's Supreme National Security Council Secretary on Saturday vowed that Tehran will respond to attacks from U.S. military bases in the Persian Gulf amid the U.S. military operations. "When the enemy attacks us from regional bases, we respond to it and will respond. This is our right and a consistent policy," Secretary Ali Larijani wrote in a translated post on the social platform X. "The countries of the region must either prevent the use of their soil by America against Iran themselves, or we will." Larijani is one of Iran's few surviving military or political leaders after the initial U.S. and Israeli bombings last week. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, was among the country's leaders killed during those strikes. On Sunday, Larijani rejected the notion that he sought negotiations with the U.S. to stop the bombings. Some analysts said the secretary is a, quote, serial liar. He's the LeBron James of lying, T.H.E, senior fellow for Middle East Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, told The Hill on Monday. "I am absolutely sure he's reaching out to the Americans because that's what he does. He is, I'm sorry for the language, one of the greatest scumbags of Iranian politics. That may actually help him." Larijani's remark comes hours after Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also warned that Iran would retaliate if the U.S. military operation escalates. "If President Trump seeks escalation, it is precisely what our powerful armed forces have long been prepared for, and what he will get," he wrote on X. "Responsibility for any intensification of Iran's exercise of self-defense will lie squarely with the U.S. administration." He criticized Trump's campaign promise to not start wars during his presidency, that the American people voted to end involvement in costly quagmires in the Middle East. Instead, they have ended up with an administration that Netanyahu, after decades of failed attempts, finally managed to dupe into fighting Israel's wars, Araghchi added, referring to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Araghchi told NBC News' Tom Lamas on Thursday that Iranian troops were waiting for a U.S. ground invasion in the country, adding that it would be a big disaster for them. Trump, since the start of the joint military strikes with Israel on Iran, has not ruled out ground operations. In contrast, Trump ally and defense hawk Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, said Sunday that there will be no ground invasion, saying the military operation differs from the Iraq War and troops sent to fight in Germany and Japan during World War II. "The goal of this operation is to change the threat, not the regime," he said.